Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
How are you all doing?
Good evening.
Thank you so much for coming. I think I recognize every face in here just about, so that's wonderful. Most of you have gotten something out of it, so you came back. I think you all know about Weston A. Price. I'm not going to go into that. What we're going to talk tonight about is dairy. How many of you think dairy is bad? Yeah. So for me, when I was young, I drank as much milk as I wanted to. And then, as many of you have, I went through my own health issues. I had acne and depression, and I was always in pain. And so I started trying to learn about health. And one of the first things they said to get rid of was milk. So for 10 years, I drank no milk at all. And about 3 years ago, I started realizing all the benefits of dairy, and I brought it back into my diet, and I feel much better because of it. I want to start off reading a letter that a woman named Denise wrote to her doctor. And this is what we're dealing with. This is not me that she wrote it to. I came to your office Friday, May 2nd, 2014 for a Medicare wellness visit. I was hoping that you would be open to discussing and learning about the health issues that have plagued me for 3 years now. Unintended weight loss and dangerously low weight, food intolerances, pain, bloating after eating, severe constipation, etc. I tried to explain that I was indeed in perfect health until a series of antibiotics in a short time frame decimated my gut bacteria and started the health deterioration. I am amazed that no doctor finds it odd that I was never ill. I worked for 24 years without missing work for illness once, and then suddenly I cannot eat or work. This is not a coincidence at all, nor that my white blood cells are consistently low and never were before. My body temperature is low, never before. My pulse rate is high, never before, etc. I was a female executive within my company, and I always looked at historical information for comparison purposes. How sad that the medical profession totally ignores such important information when evaluating patients and attempting to determine what causes the problems. Why even bother a history when it's not considered? Your advice to me that I should accept my fate and illness and stop searching for answers by seeking specialists implies that I've seen enough. Unfortunately, this goes against my philosophical nature and my will to survive. I intend to do all I can to find the underlying cause of my illness so that it can be treated. Your approach is unacceptable. I want my health back, and I will continue to do whatever I have to achieve that. And as we discussed, IBS is a diagnosis of exclusion, but there's almost always an underlying cause. And she goes on that they have philosophical differences and she's going to look for someone else. This is basically what I hear every single day. I had a little girl this morning who came to me, and she has horrific digestion. She's bloated, she's gassy all the time. She gets ear infections, and she just finished her 10th series of antibiotics in a row. And they told her that she should just go on laxatives and stay on the laxatives. This is what we're battling, and if I may, I think the most important thing that you can do for yourself and your children is to protect your gut health, and that's what dairy basically comes back to. Dairy is one of the most effective ways to keep a healthy gut if done properly. And so I want to talk a little bit about some of the problems with dairy that many of you heard, including whether you should be having full fat or skim milk, homogenization, pasteurization, and then how to prepare it so it's basically digestible. So, as I was saying, when you lose the proper bacteria in your gut, it's so much of your health. When people come to us and they're basically ill, we always start with the gut. Does anyone know what the fastest growing category of disease in America is? It's autoimmune disease. 10 years ago, I talked to my father. They almost saw no autoimmune disease. It was a very rare thing to find. And now, literally, we see somebody every single week that has some level of autoimmune disease. You know, I believe fibromyalgia, polymyalgia rheumatica, thyroiditis, all of these different diseases where the body's basically started attacking itself. And almost all of them come from the gut. And I was just reading a scientific journal where scientists are talking about the biggest problems that we're going to face in the next 20 years. And there are two things. One is superbacteria. You know, as we do antibiotics everywhere, we're killing off so much of the bacteria that the bacteria are becoming more and more resilient to antibiotics. And the flip side of that is lost microbes. There's thousands of strains of bacteria in our gut, and many of them have been lost. It's sort of like an extinct animal that we're starting to experience. And part of the reason is things like less vaginal births and more antibiotics and more carbonated beverage and coffee, and all of you know what kills off good bacteria. And so, in that fight for survival, I think that it's education, which is why you're here. And a couple simple things that you can do can make a massive difference in the long-term health of your gut, and most of you are not of childbearing ages, but of your children as well. So first I'm going to talk about full fat. This is something that when I was younger, everybody was drinking skim milk, which tastes awful, right? I think that God gave us taste buds for a reason, that we're supposed to enjoy things that are delicious until they're manipulated. So there was 2 studies that just came out. NPR reported on both these studies that basically eating full-fat milk helps you be skinnier than eating skim milk. And I thought it was interesting. They're both out of Europe. One was the Scandinavian researchers that did it, and it was in the Scandinavian Journal of Health, and they showed that middle-aged men who consume high-fat milk, butter, and cream are significantly less likely to become obese than those who drink skim milk or drink no milk at all. The second one was a mega study. It was in the European Journal of Nutrition, and they took 6 studies and they put them all together, and basically they showed that high-fat dairy is associated with a lower risk of obesity. And I'm going to talk about why this is in just a second. We have a book out there called Eat Fat, Lose Fat, and basically everywhere we look, they're showing that fat does not make you fat. Fat does not create heart disease. It's all the things that they told us to get off of that create us fat and heart disease. And so the other thing that they do after they take the fat out, does anyone know where all of the nutrition in milk is in the fat? All the fat-soluble vitamins, which Weston A Price just harped on, are all in the fat. And he studied these cultures, and he showed that it was literally these cultures looked at the food as sacred. There was a culture in was it Austria? Switzerland. They would take the butter from cows that ate the spring pasture. You know, that really orange butter that's really high in vitamin A, and they'd put a candle in it, and they have a ceremony thanking God for their health. Yeah, I know, right? And so when you take out the fat, first you lose the fat-soluble vitamins, and these fat-soluble vitamins are so important for your immune system. They're so important for your endocrine system. So it's not hard to see when people are getting high amounts of fat-soluble vitamin A and vitamin D that they're not having the weight problems that other people are, because basically their endocrine systems are working better. The second massive mistake that we've all made is homogenization. And I actually think this is more important than pasteurization. So does anyone know basically what happens in homogenization?
Yeah, they take the milk and they blast it through a really fine filter screen and break up the larger molecules so that they're nice and small and everything is evenly distributed and it doesn't look like that.
Yeah, you're 100% right. But to do that, they have to use enormous amounts of pressure. They say it's about 4,000 pounds of pressure per square inch. So it's just this massive heat and pressure that's put on the milk. And what happens is our bodies have a digestive system to basically handle milk and the fat within it. And it goes in our stomach, and our bile from our liver comes down, it goes into our small intestine and digests in a normal way. But when you break apart the fat molecules, they basically skip your digestive tract, and they go right into your blood system because they're too small to go through the normal path of digestion. And unfortunately, most of the milk that has been homogenized has also been treated with any number of chemicals in the pasteurization process. And there's also a loss of how it, like I said, how it goes through your digestive tract. But there's growth hormones, and when it goes right into their bloodstream, it has an immediate effect on your hormonal system. And they also show that it raises your histamine levels. So because I had allergies, one of the first things they told me to do was go off milk. And so I did, and it helped. But it's not actually milk that is creating these allergies. It's pasteurized milk, which is skipping the digestive tract. And again, when you break apart the fat molecules, what happens is it gets into your arteries and it creates free radical damage. Does anyone know what free radical damage is? It's basically very reactive type chemicals. And so it creates all of this inflammation within our arteries. And so what does our body have to do to counteract inflammation, free radical damage? Exactly. It has to produce cholesterol. So you take this skim milk that has no fat-soluble vitamins, and then you homogenize it, which causes your body to have an inflammatory response. And then the last thing that happens to milk is pasteurization. And everybody understands enzymes, correct? Enzymes are basically the life of food. So you put a banana on the shelf and it turns black. That's enzymes at work. Something dies in your yard and it rots. That's enzymes at work. You take an apple, it goes bad. You take a McDonald's hamburger and fries and it stays the same for 2 years. What is the McDonald's hamburgers and fries missing? Enzymes, correct. Enzymes are life. You're born with a specific amount of enzymes, just like a woman is with eggs. You have a certain amount of enzymes and that's all you're going to get. It reminds me of the old Chinese parable that a man can eat so many grains of rice. When he's eating his last grain of rice, he will die. The one thing that researchers have found that actually increases lifespan is enzymes and eating less. Because when you eat less, you have to use up less of your enzymes, which basically keep you alive. It's interesting, hang on, I read this. In the scrolls that were found that Abraham of the Bible wrote, he attributed kefir for his long life. And Muhammad praised Allah in thanks of kefir grains, saying they were a gift from Allah, and also praised him for his long, healthy life. When you pasteurize, you basically kill off the enzymes in milk. When you kill off the enzymes in milk, all of a sudden it becomes this extremely difficult to digest substance. The casein, the lactose, all of these things are very reactive that normally enzymes would break down, and so that you wouldn't have to work. Raw milk is the only food on earth that takes 0 energy to digest. So when you drink a glass of raw milk or fermented milk that has the enzymes put back in it, your body doesn't have to work at all to digest it, which is pretty cool. There's a couple other things that happen when we pasteurize milk. One, if you think about it, they don't feed pasteurized milk to calves because they know that calves won't reach maturity if they drink pasteurized milk, because the fat-soluble vitamins, the enzymes, the life of the food is all gone. In the 1920s, they had horrible sanitation techniques. They had cows in the city that were basically in their own feces. These were very, very sick animals. They put them into non-stainless steel containers. These pathogens grew and people ate them and they got TB, and so they started this massive pasteurization process. There's no law that if they don't have to inspect a herd that's pasteurized to see how healthy it is. If it's non-pasteurized, then people are all of a sudden very interested to make sure they're healthy. So if you know your farmer and you know that they're good sanitized techniques and they're keeping in stainless steel and these aren't sick animals, you have very little to no risk of getting a disease from non-pasteurized milk. I'm just going to say that up front. Pasteurization also, in addition to destroying the enzymes, also destroys the vitamins. Not just the fat-soluble vitamins, but also vitamin B and vitamin C. And again, it's this horrifically difficult to digest substance once it's homogenized and pasteurized. So that's just full fat, homogenization, and pasteurization. So when you're choosing your milk, ideally, you would choose raw, full fat, non-homogenized milk, which in this state is illegal. The closest thing is Hartzler's, which is why we carry it here. Hartzler's is non-homogenized, it's pasture-fed, so it's high in fat-soluble vitamins, and it's only pasteurized up to 145 degrees, so many of the enzymes are still alive. But here's the thing about even milk. The Western culture is the only culture on earth that even drinks milk in its unadulterated state. So every other culture, Russia, the Middle East, Bulgaria, they all had some fermentation process. Well, for multiple reasons. One, it kept milk good longer. And 2, it also activated the nutrients. A lot of people didn't really know why they did these things. They just knew that they were healthier and stronger if they fermented dairy. And so yogurt is traditionally from Bulgaria. Kefir is traditionally from Russia. And these things have made it here to this culture. And so I'm going to talk just a little bit about how and why, and then we'll just go through how to do it. As I got more and more into Weston A. Price and started reading Sally Fallon's books and cookbooks, I found that almost every recipe called for whey. And I was like, where do you get whey? And so I realized real quick that if I wanted to follow a lot of the Weston A. Price recipes, I had to make yogurt. And so it's the easiest thing on earth. I'm going to show you how to do it, and we'll give you guys a sample of it if you'd like. It tastes a little bit different than the yogurt you used to. But let's talk about the benefits of fermenting your yogurt. So 1, it lasts longer. 2, you're getting more vitamins. It increases the amount of B vitamins and vitamin C in the milk. It restores the enzymes. So even if it is a pasteurized milk, if you ferment it, the enzymes are put back in. It's been shown to have the reverse effect. It actually lowers your cholesterol. It protects against bone loss. And let's go through these and talk about why this happens. Why does eating fermented milk protect against bone loss? I'm sure you all understand this. Yeah. So there's really only 2 ways to get calcium, really true absorbable calcium: milk and broth. So that's why every culture on earth either fermented dairy or ate broth. Trying to grind up rock and hope it gets into your bones is a fairy tale. It provides probiotics, which is basically 95% of your immune system. It's a place where 95% of the serotonin in your body is produced. It is your mood, it is your digestion, it is your lifespan. It provides whey. Has everyone here tried whey before? Oh gosh. This is whey. I just pulled it out. So you guys can smell it. If any of you want to try it, I'll have cups here that we'll pass around with it, and you can pour a little in there. It's really kind of a interesting flavor.
I give it to my dogs.
Yeah, you can give it to your dogs.
Makes their hair really, really shiny.
I use it in smoothies. You know, it's the absolute best protein supplement you can buy anywhere. It's just chock full of good bacteria. It's full of enzymes. One of the things the Weston A. Price is they say no powdered whey, because they understand that it's lost all of the characteristics of life. But this is fantastic. So if any of you do a smoothies, it's great in there. We're trying to build muscle. It improves your mood. They've been shown that getting fermented dairy improves people's happiness levels. It improves your sleep. Why would it do that? Serotonin and minerals. Very, very absorbable minerals. It lowers hypertension. So it's been shown to lower your blood pressure. These are all the opposite things that they told us that it did. Again, it lowers your weight, improves your digestion, and reduces your allergies. I was watching a testimonial on here of some guy who started drinking raw milk, and he said, I had allergies and now they're gone. Does anyone know why you get allergies? Allergies are like this modern day curse that everybody has. And you look at somebody that has allergies and you're like, oh, you were cursed. I guess you get to be on antihistamines the rest of your life. But anybody who has allergies either has poor liver or poor colon function, 100% of the time. And so this helps, the nutrients help liver detoxification, and then putting the good bacteria helps your colon, because all histamines are produced by the liver and recycled by the liver. And then people usually get allergies because they get some degree of leaky gut, where the good and bad bacteria is out of balance, you have too much candida, you get little cracks, the food goes into your bloodstream and your body reacts to it. That's also why people get autoimmune disease.
Can I just ask a question?
Yeah.
Okay, with the allergy thing, I mean, you know Anna.
Yes.
She was born with them. So that because she didn't have enough good bacteria to begin with?
Not necessarily. You can get allergies one of 2 ways. You can inherit them from your parents. So if I have a milk allergy and I have a kid, there's a 50% chance they're going to have a milk allergy. If my wife has a milk allergy, there's almost 100% chance the child will have a milk allergy. It's an energetic thing where the body, you've given the genetics to your body so that they respond to it. That's where the NAET can help, but also is health reasons. Your body's basically searching for a reason why it doesn't feel well, and it makes connections with things.
So I was unhealthy, basically.
Well, let's blame your mother.
Okay.
You know, and this is so interesting. We talk about this. Literally, healthy genetic, good bacteria is honestly the birthright that you pass on. And one of the biggest things that people are doing now is fecal transplants, because there's only a couple strains of bacteria that can live outside the body. And so, you know, they're having amazing results with people that have allergies, that have IBS, that have C. diff, especially C. diff, and they do a fecal transplant. And I know a lot of people that have done this on their own because the doctors won't do it, where they're basically taking the richest probiotic known to man and they're putting it right into the colon. So it's extremely, extremely powerful, effective way of doing it. But you should screen the person to make sure they don't have any parasites or candida. So I wouldn't just say, ask somebody, how's your digestion? Okay, I'm in. And you can do a stool analysis, and there's screening techniques. And so let's talk about how to do this. So the easiest thing to do is yogurt. How many of you make your own yogurt? Okay, awesome. There's a couple techniques out there. I tried a bunch of them. I tried like heating it and putting it in a cooler and a crock pot. This I thought was the coolest thing on earth. Basically what you do with yogurt, you have to heat it, because if there's enzymes in there, they'll compete with the enzymes of yogurt and you'll get a weird substance out of it. So you have to heat it up to 180 degrees. And then no more than 180 degrees. As soon as you get to 180 degrees, it's fine. And then you have to get it back down to about 140. And then you just add the starter, or Bulgarian yogurt, or if you already have yogurt, you just add the yogurt as a starter. And then you pour. This is cool because it holds exactly a half gallon of Hartzler's milk. So I pour the Hartzler's milk right in here. This keeps it at a steady temperature. So I usually do 12 to 20 hours, and then I take it out, and it's ready to go. It's that simple. This is a yogurt that glad I didn't spill that, just made a couple days ago. A lot of you will be surprised how sour it is. When you make yogurt yourself, it has a souring effect. It's the lacto-fermentation process that happens. I have a spoon. I already passed the cups around, so wherever the cups are, or if you have a cup, you can just spoon it into your cup and swallow it, if you want. Great. And then what my wife and I do is we take it and we put paper towels on a colander, and then we just pour the yogurt in there, and the longer you have it there, the thicker the yogurt will get. And then if you want to sweeten it a little bit, what we do is we either put just a little bit of grade B maple syrup on there, or a little bit of jam, and it's wonderful. It's so much cheaper, it's so much richer than the stuff that you get in the stores.
You don't cook for milk?
Yeah, you have to heat it to 180 degrees.
Oh, okay.
With kefir, you don't have to heat it. They say you do. My brother, I talked to him the other day, and he said, yeah, I lost 20 pounds. And I said, how did you do that? He said, I just do kefir, and that's all I eat for 1 day a week. And he, because of all the benefits that we just talked about, he lost 20 pounds doing that. He doesn't heat it. They recommend with the kefir starter that we have here that you heat it up to 180 degrees. It seems to work, even if you don't. And then after you get your kefir curds or balls or grains, thank you. To store them, you just put them in milk and put them in the refrigerator, and they stay good. Or a lot of people keep it going. They just take the kefir grains from one and they put it right into the next. Kefir is kind of like a liquid milk. Have you all had it? Hartzler's has a kefir.
No, Hartzler's. We have Lifeway.
Lifeway.
Organic, full fat.
Yes. So if you don't want to do it yourself, we have one here, which is a great one. It's really, really easy. So is making yogurt. And so like we have this beautiful Bulgarian yogurt here. It's just absolutely wonderful. But it's cheaper to make your own. You know, I always tell people there's a couple of strains in the Bulgarian that aren't in our starter. So ideally, you take a Bulgarian, you get your starter, and then you just keep it going. It is the richest probiotic on earth. So a really, really strong probiotic will have several billion live bacteria. A tablespoon of this stuff has upwards of 1 trillion good bacteria in there. So it's life food. And with all of our patients, we're trying to get them to start to eat fermented foods of all types. Sauerkraut, kefir, kombucha, kvass. So fermented foods, I really feel like are the key to a healthy gut and a happy life.